Hello and welcome to episode 7 of Ask the YAs. As lockdown restrictions begin to ease, our young ambassadors are sharing some advice on how to manage the anxiety of things reopening and returning to a new sense of normal, and also reflecting back on the things that they've learned and are really grateful for during this time.
So definitely slowly starting to go back out. I have felt anxious myself and it's taken me a lot of courage. For example, even just to go fill up my car with petrol, it took me a lot of time to build up the courage to do that, and I didn't do it until I felt comfortable doing it and prepared, and I tried to go at a time when it was quiet. So I think my tips for like managing the anxiety that going back out will cause for some people is first of all, just don't do anything that you don't feel comfortable or safe doing. I think that's the most important thing to remember, because you do need to look after you, and everyone has different limits. So do what feels right to you and what feels safe to you. For example, I still haven't been in the supermarket because I don't feel safe doing that yet. I haven't obviously been clothes shopping. I have been into like a homeware store, which was quiet, and like I said, the petrol station. But that is genuinely all that I have done at all. Um, in the last like month, even since I've been back to work, that is the two places that I have been. Because that's what I felt safe and comfortable doing. I'm going to slowly build up the courage to go into a supermarket. I might try a corner shop one evening when it's quieter, and then actually go back to the supermarket, because I normally buy myself food, and like it's like Father's Day and I hadn't actually got anything for this yet. Um, because that's like my own independence, and so my mum's also been getting it all for me because I live at home with her. But I've kind of lost that sense of independence, so it's slowly building up the courage, and until I feel comfortable enough to do it, and then I can kind of gain that back. And also just preparing myself. So taking like a face mask, I have a reusable one that I then wash when I get home, and I chose one with like a nice pattern and stuff, so I feel like quite happy wearing it. And I practiced wearing it around the house a few times before I actually went out to get like comfortable with wearing it. I didn't think that I would feel uncomfortable, but it was just worth it, so it wasn't something new and scary. Um, and also just taking like hand sanitizer or like sanitizing wipes, and just other stuff that you think that you may need. Probably cashless payments is also good, so like a contactless card or like Apple Pay or something similar, uh, because a lot of places are only accepting card, and to maybe look up what those stores, like the place that you want to go, is doing, or like the zoo, like if you have to pre-book, for example, try and look into it, or like ask questions, like maybe their online like help services, or in like a local Facebook group, to see how things are working. And when you get to, for example, let's say like the store, just ask them what they're like, how they're running things, because they'll be more than happy to answer your questions, because they want you to stay safe and have an enjoyable shopping experience or just time out. They'll be very happy. I know that at my work, I'm very happy to answer people's questions on this because it works both ways. So yeah, I think that's probably my top tips on how to manage anxiety of going back out.
If you're stressed for everything to go back to normal, a piece of advice that I'd give is to just take it at your own pace. It's only going to happen step by step, so you can work your way up to it. And a lot of the times, the anxiety, the anticipation for what could happen is a lot worse than when things actually do happen. So just take your time and you'll be alright.
I think the most important thing to remember as we're moving forward out of this pandemic is that as things slowly go back to normal, that doesn't necessarily mean that it'll go back to normal for everyone. Some people may have been shielding or feel more anxious than others about returning to everyday activities. So first of all, I'd like to say that that is absolutely fine. Take everything at your own pace. Some of you may have to go back to work or school, etc. You may not have control over that, but in your personal life, you may have control over whether you want to see friends as often as you usually do. And taking that all in your stride and knowing your own limits as you're going through it. Try not to think about too much about how other people are handling it. This has been a completely unprecedented circumstance, and everyone's going to deal with it in a slightly different way. So if you don't feel comfortable enough to go out yet, that doesn't mean that you have to.
Something I've learned in lockdown that I'm grateful for is almost learning to be able to ignore everything else around me to get just like one thing done. Because a lot of times everything can be overwhelming and you just gotta clear your mind and just focus on one thing at a time.
I think I've learned a lot about myself in lockdown, and I'm continuing to learn as I go along. I think one of the things that I've definitely surprised myself with is how much that I actually enjoy being organised. I've always been someone who said I can be organised but never had the time to do it. So now that I've had the time to sort out different areas of my life, I've actually found I really enjoy the process of it. I've started a bullet journal, which I'm really enjoying. I'm starting a morning sidekick journal to try and get my my morning routines into check before my new school year, which should be in another country if all goes to plan. So it's all been quite an interesting learning experience for me, and I'm really grateful that I've had the time to do this and that I've made the most out of it.
I think probably the number one thing I've learned during lockdown that I'm grateful for is how close and the bonds that I normally have with my family members. For example, my grandparents, because I spent a lot of time with them growing up, and maybe in the recent years I haven't spent as much time with them as I have, but I'm very grateful that I am still very close to them, even just to talk to them from a distance or just send them like a little message on Facebook or just send them a little gift. I don't think until I physically couldn't see them that I wasn't as grateful maybe for them as I should have been. And it also gave me time to reflect on how much of an impact that they've had on my life and where I am today. A lot of it was because of what they've done. So I think, yeah, I'm most grateful for the time I spend with my family. And that's something I'm going to improve on moving forwards.
Join us next week for our Pride Month special. Take care.